Hey guys, Lockie from Focus Performance Training. Last week was a bit of a hectic week for me. I got the opportunity to go down to Barker College and teach down there with a good mate, Sandra Clark, who's a head S&C at Barker College. I got to teach some really skilled and really, lucky, well not lucky, but kids with lots of potential. I've got to teach them the basics of weightlifting and how we can use that for sports performance. And that's a really big passion of mine, is teaching weightlifting and teaching how to do movement effectively, how to get the most out of it, especially to people, all S&C coaches, all coaches love coaching people who are really attentive, love hearing what you have to say, and you can see things working out for them. So that's a bit of a reason why last week I was very quiet on social media from Focus Performance Training, because I was really just digging into that, and by the end of the week I was just completely spent. It was a really big week, travelling to and from Sydney, walking around Sydney, being there for the first time. It was just an absolute brilliant experience, and I can't thank Sandra enough for giving me the opportunity. So thanks mate, thanks for giving a little shout out here. And on that I got a lot of time to think about a few topics which I can talk to in my sort of Monday night videos, looking at education, what we can sort of apply to our week of training moving forward. So this week I'm going to talk on recovery. Now I'm going to talk on a few different ones, because last week I went through and put a poll up on Instagram, both on my personal account and on my business account. All it was essentially asking was, what's the most important part for recovery? Is it sleep? Is it nutrition? Is it massage? Is it ice bathing? Because there's all these different types of recovery modalities popping up on social media, and you see some really good athletes endorsing some, in my opinion, questionable products. And the reason they're questionable is not because of, like, do they work, or not so much do they work or not, but are they needed? Are they a necessity or a necessary item to add to our training regime in order to recover appropriately? Now, my argument for the majority of people is no. And when I talk there, I'm looking at sort of your 2-point guns, adding ice baths after every session, that sort of stuff. I don't see it as a necessary modality to add when you can get more bang for buck out of doing other modalities or other methods to recover faster. Now, number one being sleep. Sleep, if you're not getting between 7 and 9 hours a night, and it's not high quality sleep, i.e. the 30 minutes before you go to bed aren't interrupted by sort of blue light, that is the light that gets emitted from our TVs, our phones, that sort of stuff. If we can cut that away 30 minutes prior, nice dark room, nice and cool. Generally we want to be around sort of 18 and 22 degrees when we sleep. It allows the body to recover and sort of sink into a deeper circadian rhythm. After that, followed very closely, is nutrition. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian either, but what I do know are the basics, and we need to be having appropriate amounts of protein and carbohydrate to fuel our recovery, and then anything that's sort of left over from that in terms of our macronutrient allotment for the day, we can then use up from fats. Now, as long as we're eating good fats, there isn't really too much we can have, as long as it's within our macronutrient intake. I'm not saying just go out and eat fats all day long, but they are necessary for our nervous system health, brain health, eye health, and joint health as well. So that's what we really need our fats for, and they're an important factor to keep in mind as well. Now, you notice I've got sleep and nutrition 1 and 2, because they're the most important ones. If you aren't hitting these two off effectively, that's your 95%. So if we look at, let's get the majority of stuff right first and get the basics down pat. These are the basics. If you aren't doing these, I would argue very strongly that there's no point going forward, doing your massage, doing ice baths, getting a trigger gun and going through that sort of stuff. There's just no point, because you're stepping over hundreds of dollars, so to speak, to pick up pennies in the form of your trigger point guns. Now, when we look at stretching, we look at massage and ice baths, or contrast therapy, that is moving from cold to hot, we need to look at the methods as to why or how they increase recovery. Stretching, research is pretty inconclusive. There's been a fair bit on stretching and recovery and our ability to perform post. Yes, stretching can help to acutely restore joint range of motion and muscle range of motion, so our flexibility. But in terms of recovery, it's not really sort of solid. There's no significant change between the people who do stretch for a long period of time after they train and those who don't stretch. They still recover at a relatively similar rate. Now, I want to just make this crystal clear. I'm talking about recovery, your ability to go forward the next session. I'm not talking about your ability to, your flexibility or your mobility. Just want to make that crystal clear just there. Next is massage. So, and in the brackets there, SMR being self-myofascial release. And under that includes everything from foam rolling, trigger point therapy, your trigger guns, all that sort of stuff. TENS and your muscle stim are a little bit different, and I'll talk on them, and there's a reason why they're not on the board. But massage, we need to look at the mechanisms as to why, or the proposed mechanisms as to why it might work. Now, massage is going to increase superficial blood flow to area. Now, we need to to prove that. Grab your hand and rub across your skin really hard, and your skin will rub across your skin quite vigorously, and your skin will start to turn red. And that's blood flow coming to the surface because it needs to cool off and maintain that stable internal temperature, or homeostasis. Now, what that does is it has the potential, I'm not saying it does, but it has the potential to increase blood flow to the area. Now, increased blood flow means we're going to have increased nutrients, increased oxygen delivery to the area, which means we have a greater ability to flush out or to remove waste products from muscle damage or metabolic damage to the area. Now, we look at that in sort of markers in urine such as creatine kinase. When markers of creatine kinase are quite high, generally it has a correlation with muscle damage. So we look at the real mechanism for massage is blood flow. Now, there is the analgesic, or not the analgesic, but the relaxation part of massage. People tend to get very sleepy, they can start to relax a lot more, and that's really good if we're going to go have a good sleep afterwards, because we get put in the right mood and we can achieve a deeper sleep rate and we can get a really good rest. But again, this links back to sleep or resting. If we can get an appropriate amount of sleep, we're going to be able to recover quicker. Now, self-myofascial release, again, similar to stretching, research is very inconclusive. There's no problem with going through after a session, going through some self-myofascial release, adding a trigger point ball here and there. But as long as we go back and we load that position in a light way to try and promote range of motion back to the area. Now, an example I'd use for that in a recovery part, say you've done a big day of like a horizontal push-pull, your pecs are quite tight, and so are the rotator cuff muscles. Go through, do some sort of pec smashing with a ball, and then go through, add in some light loaded stretching to really open the chest back up and get some range of motion through back through the chest to get some blood flow as well. Do some light work. Then you can add in the similar thing for your rotator cuff muscles. Release some of that tension, or some of that tension to the right word, in rotator cuff muscles. And then from there, go through and do some rotator cuff prehab work. So we're still strengthening the muscles and getting some good blood flow to that area to remove any of the waste product that may have built up. Now, I'll move on to ice baths or contrast therapy. Now, there has been a lot of research on this. Like, there has been so much research. And I can't sort of emphasize enough that even with all this research, there still isn't like conclusive evidence that yes, this temperature for this long is going to make you X amount better. It's just not how things work. And it's not the question we should be asking. The question we should be asking with all of this is, how much do I need? What's the context? Like, why am I doing it? How is it going to make me better? And what do I need to do to emphasize or promote my recovery? Now, if we look at ice bathing or cold water immersion, as it's stated in the research, we're looking around that for a long immersion. We're looking around 12 minutes at between 14 and 16 degrees off the top of my head, which is pretty chilly. Contrast therapy, there's a few different protocols out there. One of the more common ones though, as Science for Sport posted the other day, is minute on, minute off in either one. In the cold water, you want it around that 14 to 16 degrees, and in the hot water, you want it around that sort of 35 to 40 degrees. If the temperature difference between the two is too much, you can risk doing neural damage. If you've ever gone from really cold temperature into a hot bath, into a hot shower, it can sting. So we don't want to be plunging ourselves into too hot water or too cold water after one or the other, because our nerves are not primed for it, not ready for it, and it can be quite painful. So when are we going to use ice baths? Now, from my understanding and my synthesis of the research, ice baths, or I promote ice baths when you need to promote performance. So an example of that would be in the middle of a CrossFit comp, where you've got 3 or 4 workouts in a day and you're no longer searching for adaptation, but instead you're searching for recovery and you need to perform. Another example would be, say, a rugby sevens tournament or a touch tournament, where you've got 3 to 4 games in a day. There's high levels of change direction, high levels of impact, and your muscles, the joints can swell up quite a fair bit just from the amount of load that's going through them. Similar thing with contrast therapy, same deal with that water submersion. So when we go, I believe it's a meter into water, it can increase the pressure to, I believe, 180 millimoles of mercury, which is a lot greater than your compression garments, and they're around the 45 milligrams of mercury. Don't quote me on those figures, they may be a little bit off, but they're ballpark what I remember from doing my synthesis of the research. Now, why would we use these? Or what are the dangers of it? So ice bathing, there's been a fair bit of research come out recently which says that ice bathing can be detrimental to adaptations or deleterious to adaptations post power, speed, strength training. Reason for that is, after that we have an inflammation effect. After the training, we have an inflammation effect. That inflammation is what drives our adaptation to that stimulus. Now, if we ice bath, we can then blunt that inflammation process. I'm talking immediately after the strength training session. We can blunt that inflammation process, and we can therefore blunt our adaptation, so the stimulus isn't as high. So I don't recommend it for strength, power, speed training. I do, however, recommend it for endurance athletes, people who are doing long distances with lots of dynamic loading on the joints, and they just want to feel better in general. Now, I'm a massive proponent for that. The other proponent for ice baths is mental resilience. Now, I know for myself, I hate getting in cold water. I hate it. And it's one of the reasons why I probably need to do it more. And I'm going to start trying to do that, implementing that more and more into my daily regime. But I'm apprehensive about it, especially if I do it like a cold shower before I go to bed, because it will send me into a state of, it must send my autonomic nervous system into a more sympathetic state than a parasympathetic state. And if I want to go to bed and be relaxed, I need to be in a parasympathetic state. So we need to keep that in consideration. So we've now got 2 that aren't on the whiteboard, that being your muscle stimulation therapy, or TENS, and then saunas. Okay, so you need to, with your muscle stimulation and TENS, you need to understand the difference between the two. And the reason why it's not on here is because there isn't a lot of conclusive research on it, and I wouldn't recommend or promote anyone to go and get it for muscle stimulation. TENS is a different story. TENS is a way of managing pain and can help to reset the pain signal as it works on the afferent nervous system on the way up, and it can help to sort of confuse and block that signal so that we can almost get out of pain temporarily. And once we get out of pain, we can then promote appropriate movement patterns when we need to. Muscle stimulation looks at stimulating the muscle in the spot and contracting that muscle. If you look at, okay, so why does that make me, help me recover better? Because it promotes blood flow to the muscle. And what this all links back to is, if you're sore, go and do some active recovery, get blood flow to the whole body, breathe, increase your heart rate, and it'll promote the blood flow throughout. You'll increase oxygenation of muscles, which will increase nutrient delivery and can increase our recovery rate. Saunas, the reason why they're not on there is purely because I'm not all over them. I'm going to try and I'll endeavour to do some research on saunas and the benefits. However, I do know from my quick glimpse of the research on saunas that infrared saunas seem to be more effective at increasing recovery than your traditional sauna, purely because the way that they heat the body tends to heat the muscles of the body a lot deeper rather than your traditional saunas, which are more superficial and just make us sweat. Okay, so quick 1 minute summary on what that is then. 2, 1, go. All right, sleep's important. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep tonight, and it needs to be high quality. You don't want it. You want to avoid wrestling through moving around through the night. Nutrition, that needs to be dialed in. If you don't have your nutrition dialed in, go and see a dietitian. Message me, and I can give you links to some very good dietitians. Stretching, if it makes you feel better and you think it helps you, do it. No worries, but be aware that it doesn't decrease injury risk and it may not increase your performance. Massage, SMR, increase blood flow. My recommendation: go and do some active recovery, get in the movements you need to work on, and get your heart rate up. Ice baths, if you're in competition and need to recover quick for performance, I recommend them. That was under a minute. TENS, if you're in pain, go and see a physio or an osteo and they can help you out. Muscle stimulation, I wouldn't waste your money on it, especially with ones that are $800. And saunas, if you have access to one, jump in one, have some fun, do some research on them yourselves. So guys, that's been a quick summary on recovery from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the like and subscribe below. Like I said, there's going to be coming out every Monday where I can to increase your education, increase your knowledge, and how you can improve your training. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a good week, and I'll speak to you next week.